In this flipped classroom presentation, students will learn about international business basics and the global marketplace. Before deciding to be part of the international marketplace, a business should consider the following factors. The location, climate, terrain, seaports, and natural resources of a country influence business activity. Very hot weather will limit the type of crops that can be grown. A nation with many rivers or seaports can easily ship products for foreign trade, and countries with few natural resources must depend on imports. Every country plans the use of its land, natural resources, workers, and wealth to best serve the needs of its people. In some countries, people travel on a high-speed bullet train to work in a high-rise. In others, people go by ox cart to a grass hut to make clothes for people in their village. The differences in living and work environments reflect the economic development of the country. This includes literacy levels, technology, agricultural dependency, and infrastructure. Culture is the accepted behaviors, customs, and values of a society. A society's culture has a strong influence on business activities. For example, hugging is appropriate in some business greetings, while in others, a handshake is the custom. Governments often regulate fair advertising and enforce contracts. They require safety inspections of food and medication. People in the United States have a great deal of freedom in their business activities, but this is not true in all countries. In many places, the activities of consumers and business operators are restricted. Imports are items bought from other countries. Without foreign trade, many things you would buy would cost more or not be available at all. Other countries can produce some goods at lower costs because they have the needed raw materials or have lower labor costs. Exports are products sold to other countries. Just as imports benefit you, exports benefit consumers in other countries. The difference between a country's total exports and total imports is called the balance of trade. If a country's exports are more than its imports, it has a trade surplus. Its trade position is said to be favorable. If it imports more than it exports, it has a trade deficit, and its trade position is said to be unfavorable. Many countries set up free trade agreements with other nations. Under a free trade agreement, member countries agree to remove duties, otherwise known as import taxes, and trade barriers on products traded among them. In a common market, members do away with duties and other trade barriers. They allow companies to invest freely in each member's country and allow workers to move freely across borders. A common market is also called an economic community. To promote international business, governments often create free trade zones in their countries. A free trade zone is a selected area where products can be imported duty-free and then stored, assembled, and/or used in manufacturing. A trade barrier is an action that a government takes to restrict trade between countries. One way to regulate international trade is by setting a limit on the quantity of products that may be imported or exported within a given period. This is called a quota. Another tool that governments use to control international trade is a tariff. A tariff is a tax that a government places on certain imported or exported products. You may also hear it called a duty. If a government does not want any trade to happen between countries, an embargo is imposed. Some companies want to produce items in other countries without being actively involved. Licensing allows a company to sell the rights of their intellectual property for a fee or a royalty. Intellectual property can be described as an intangible item of value. It includes things like the production process, trademarks, brand names and logos, and patents. Another method often used to expand into other countries is a franchise. A franchise gives the owner the right to use a company's name or business process in a specific way. Business partnerships can provide benefits to all parties involved. One type of global partnership is a joint venture. A joint venture is an agreement between two or more companies to share a business project.